Hello there and welcome back to Thirdstone. In today's episode we're going to be building the Metcalfe bank and shop. This is a low profile background building, so let's crack on. So the first step is to add the window glazing to the bottom windows. So let's do that. And the next step is to combine the windows with the outer stonework. Now we add the stiffening braces to the sides. So now we're going to stack those three braces together and glue them in between the door and the side wall. In this next step, we're going to take these three L-shaped braces and we're going to stack those together and then glue them along the bottom of the window, and that will brace up the other door. And now we're going to take the inner door and we're going to glue that to the brace and then close up the building against this lower brace. This is a different technique from Metcalfe, so constantly learning new techniques for scratch building. It's actually quite a good idea to build a few of these kits so that you can get some ideas for your own scratch built buildings. Now we're going to take door A glazing and add it to door A, and that's going to go on the back of the brace there. The doorway is capped off with a tiny little roof section, and then we need to add this wall paper onto the inside here. So the next step is to take the window glazing A2 and put that in the upper section. It's also a good time to put the curtains in, especially if you want to give it that extra added 3D element by adding little strips of cardboard to space the curtains away from the windows. And I think that's probably best done whilst you've got the windows in front of you, like so. The instructions make note of making sure that you've got the windows the right way up, because the distance from the bottom to the bottom of the bottom row of windows is different to the top of the top row of windows, as you can see there, so better not get that wrong. So that's all the windows, and I've opted to go for the easy route, which was blinds. Put the blinds in. You can see that the windows don't actually go all the way round, filling up the entire window space.
It was at this moment that he knew he fucked up.
So I'm going to have to go in there with some white paint and make those window frames a little bit wider by painting in that transparent gap. What I'd forgotten to do was actually add these frames to the glazing. So these should have gone in here and in here, and that would have meant that when we look at the actual windows themselves, there wouldn't have been a transparent gap. But I'm going to fix that with some paint, so hopefully that will light block enough to repair the mistake. But don't do what I did, so make sure that you glue, and we'll do this on the shop. We're going to glue the window transparency to this before we add it to the actual wall. And now we need to add the floors, which are parts 12 marked with a 1 and 13 marked with a 2. So those are going to slide into those slots in the side braces in the standard Metcalfe fashion. And don't forget to add the little brown window seat feature along the brace. Moving on to building B is another case of taking window glass and attaching it to the frames, and then taking the frames and attaching that to the walls. There is an order of operations described in the instructions, which involves putting in the braces first, but I'm just going to prepare these parts so that we've got those semicircular windows in the top of that section, and then I'm going to attach some blinds to those windows. So here we are, we've glued in the side braces, we've glued in the glazing, and we've stacked up these braces and glued those in behind the doors. So this will be much like the other building, where we've got to put in some door frames and some glazing, and then some little roof caps or some little ceiling caps. So we just got to put the glazing into the door, and then the door into the wall. And now the ceiling for door B goes in on top of that ledge there. And then in the last step, we're going to add the floors into the little ledges as we did in the first building. With the carcasses of the buildings complete, we now need to join them together. Now, bear in mind that these are not the same depth, so we have to align them with the backs, not the fronts. Once the buildings are glued together, we need to add the stiffening roof section, and this just goes on top. So at this point, the instructions tell us to add the back to the building, but I'm of course going to be adding some LED lights to this, so I need to be able to position the LED lights in the windows. So we're going to leave that until the LED lights arrive. Now this time I'm actually going to go for warm white LEDs, so I've got some on order. So when they arrive, we'll close up the building. But there's some other things that we can do to this building whilst we wait to close up the back. Starting with the fascia strips for building B, we've got deep, medium and narrow. So we glue that one on first, then that one, and then that one. Once you've put the first building B fascia on, then it's move on to building A, and then use the deep fascia board and add that onto there. As you then stack these things up, the actual little gap there, or the tail end, the tiny tail end, actually gets shorter, so you'll have to trim those down as you go. Dry fit first, then apply the glue. So there's the cornice feature in place, a little bit fiddly and requires quite a bit of trimming just to make sure it sits in there nicely, but it looks pretty good. Obviously a lot of these corners have opened up with the pre-scored folds, so those will have to be coloured in with watercolour pencil, and we'll have to add some drain pipes as well, but looking pretty good so far. Now we just add this small section of grey roof paving to the roof. Then we add the roof capping, a bit tricky to get that lined up and square. Starting work on the bookshop building. We are going to glue the transparencies to the back of the window frames, so avoiding the mistake that we made on the bank. With the windows in place in the walls, we now move on to the shop windows. These need to be cut out and bent along the dotted line, so we're going to score that first with the ruler. just scoring with the back of the knife blade, and then we can cut out and bend those. After a lot of faffing around, I managed to get the windows, the shop windows, into these frames. Now, the mistake I made was cutting to the window frame line. I should have left quite a bit more transparency to enable me to glue those directly to the back. So what I've ended up having to do, a little bit of a rescue, I actually put a piece of sellotape on the transparency and then stuck that down. That was much easier to do, but you know, at the end of the day, these are going to be quite far back in the layout, so they are low profile, up against the wall sort of buildings, so I'm not too worried about these little mistakes. But if you're making them, don't want to make the mistakes, don't follow what I do. Now these windows wrap around the shop base, so we'll get those glued in. And the shop window shelf bases go in as so. They go into the corners of the windows. With the shop interior complete, we need to put that inside the walls, so that just wraps around the walls. Now we end up putting the side braces into here, like so. Now we glue the floors in to their respective locations. So this is the one that goes over the door, and this is the first floor one. Really important to get those side walls in parallel. As you can see, mine are a little bit cockeyed, but I suppose it only adds to the charm of this vintage building, or this heritage building. Anyway, at this point, the instructions say to close up the back, but obviously I'm going to be adding some lights here, and I should have added curtains at this point. Always forget the curtains, but we'll add the LED lights and move on to the next step. And now we glaze the door. The door just glues in there. I'm not terribly keen on this mechanism for building this doorway. It seems a bit fiddly and unnecessary. Perhaps the arrangement at the the slotted arrangement is not terribly great, but it's the way they've engineered it. And now we have to add these two roof flat sections up onto the roof here and here, and then the inner roof capping stones go on here and in here and in here. And now these caps go on here and here and there. And now we have to add the fascia detail and the corner edges. Finally, we add the shop base and the little tiled area in front of the door. So fresh from AliExpress, here's a packet of 50 0402 warm white LEDs. So pre-wired, very tiny, and these will be added to the interior ceilings, so we can make sure that our building is properly lit. These were quite cheap. I think I paid about £5 for 50, so 10p per LED. So yeah, let's get installing these. So here we've got 4 warm white 0402 LEDs with all the leads have been twisted, and we've got them super glued in to the roof sections. So I've chased all of the wires down one edge of the building and super glued those in place so we can add the back. And now we have the bank building wired up with 6 LEDs and chased down the centre spine and out the bottom. So now we can close up the back on this one and fit the backgrounds to the lower floors. With the back on and the interior in place, we just need to add that roof section. With the roof in place, we finally get down to putting on the sign and mounting the base to the building. As you can see, I've cut out a notch so that the wires for the lights can feed out through the bottom. And here are the two buildings glued together. The one thing you can say about Metcalfe kits is that they are quite robust, and even when you get things wrong in the instructions, they do come together quite nicely. So I'm quite pleased with this. If I turn it round, all the cables are managed into one pigtail, so all that's left now is to solder these onto a circuit board and put the right resistance in so we don't blow up all the lights that we've spent all that time installing. So we'll get onto that next. So here it is with all the LEDs lit, a much more subtle light. Not sure whether or not I'm a fan, but we'll see how it looks on the layout. Anyway, thanks for watching, and do all the usual YouTube things like, subscribe, and hype, whatever that is. And we'll see you on the next episode.